When a bunch of old Rare developers spun off and created Playtonic, gamers cheered as the revival of 3D platformers came in the form of the new Yooka-Laylee series. Well, Playtonic is back and now they're tackling a different era of Rare games, where Yooka-Laylee tried to recapture the memories of Banjo-Kazooie. The Impossible Lair tackles an even earlier series, the Donkey Kong Country series for the Super Nintendo. You can write off Impossible Lair's story as you would just about any other Mario game. This sequel brings the return of the evil Capital B, a greedy corporate boss who's trying to enslave the bee population with his new device, the Hive Mind. Yeah, this game is pretty punny and it never stops. Whether you can stand toe-to-toe with the dead humor is up to you, but there's no shortage of it. With every bee saved from the Hive Mind comes an extra health or hit for Yooka-Laylee, and well, they're going to need all the help they can get. The Impossible Lair puts you against Capital B and the rest of the Hive, and so the more you dwindle down their numbers, the more likely you are to succeed. It's a weird flip of fighting the final boss first only to get your butt kicked to the curb and see why you have to level up first. The Impossible Lair takes a lot of inspiration from Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, from its art, level design, and so forth. That's not a knock on Yooka-Laylee though. Tropical Freeze is easily one of the best 2D platformers of the last decade, and if you're going to take inspiration from somewhere, then it should be Donkey Kong. While it is inspired by it, it doesn't shy away from innovating on it. Like Tropical Freeze, Impossible Lair follows a 2D level approach but dives deeper into multiple branching paths that play both to its success and its demise. You see, each level of the overworld is a book or chapter into a completely different realm, may it be a forest or something like a factory. These levels are beautifully constructed and fun to navigate. Yooka and Laylee adopt a similar moveset to Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong, as they can speedroll when together, but anytime you get hit, you lose Laylee. Something interesting though is that you're given the chance to quickly grab Laylee back at the risk of getting hit again and being sent back to a checkpoint. It's a fun risk and reward feature that made me question my actions. Not so much because the game is difficult though, on the contrary, it's a very forgiving game. That's not to say that I never died either. I died plenty of times. However, this game doesn't feature lives, instead dying makes you waste your quills, the currency in the Impossible Lair. Checkpoints aren't just your spawn points, but they can be used to skip an entire section of a level if it's too difficult for you. The cost there being missing out on some of the collectible items like quills for your currency, as well as coins hidden in every level. Outside of the traditional 2D levels is the overworld, and that's almost an entirely third part of the game. Imagine the overworld of Super Mario 3D World, but much more interactive, acting like a giant level. It's brilliant and one of the best examples of a modern level map. With every level being a book in the overworld, you'll have to occasionally solve puzzles to get to the next chapter. It's not a linear structure, but more like a Metroidvania game, like a maze. It's so clever. It further shows its brilliance when you start to interact with these level chapters. Around the overworld are element barriers like a water one that can drown a chapter with a bunch of water. Physically to a level, it changes the structure completely, unlocking new paths in it now that it's underwater. These level redesigns feel like a Metroidvania game, except instead of me being the one changing with power, it was the level changing its structure. It's something I'd love to see in more games, though Yooka-Laylee can still improve upon it. Over time, these levels, even after the redesign, felt a bit repetitive. It didn't help that I had to go back and play some previously played levels for more quills only to unlock the get it off parts of the overworld. These build-ups to the Impossible Lair, well, they just didn't feel like a build-up at all. While the Impossible Lair was a difficult level, it didn't so much feel like a culmination of the 20 regular and 20 remix levels that I went through. I feel like something was lost there in the level design, and the repetitiveness started to build up rather than the excitement for the final level. Yooka-Laylee in the Impossible Lair doesn't cut it short when it comes to its visuals. While the new 2D look is different, there's a lot of depth to the gameplay that make the 2D view feel 3D. Each chapter or level is filled to the brim with personality and charm. The 2D view is built with multiple 3D layers that always gave me something to look at, whether it was something in the foreground or in the background. The factory in Chapter 2, for example, is filled with plenty of overgrown plant life that paint an otherwise dark and rusty factory into a colorful and vibrant wonderland. Now, despite running on the same Unity engine as the original Yooka-Laylee, the sequel is a major upgrade in terms of performance and visuals on just about every platform. The sequel was designed in the opposite direction, with the Switch version needing to be 60 FPS. Working with the lowest common denominator in mind, the sequel ends up being a much better experience overall. PS4 and Xbox One run Yooka-Laylee at 1080p 60, while the Pro and the One X hit 1440p and native 4K 60. Lastly, the Nintendo Switch version seems to be running at 720p in handheld mode and 900p in dock mode, both running at a solid 60 FPS with only the occasional drop during a checkpoint respawn. If anything, what I did notice were the lengthy loading times when I first started playing the game. Anytime I loaded a game from the main menu or launched a new chapter that I hadn't been on before, long loading times plagued the gameplay. These aren't just nitpickings either. I have my moments of noticing lengthier than usual loading times, but these were long enough for the person next to me just watching TV, noticing how long my game was taking. Back to lend his musical talents is Grant Kirkhope, who once again is in charge of this entry's score. The whimsical soundtrack nails the classic 90s vibe of platformers, only now transferring it over to the 2D genre. Some songs I enjoyed more than others, while a few exceptions sort of fell to the bottom of the barrel when I realized they were just short-lived musical loops. Specifically playing the Nintendo Switch version, I really enjoyed the subtle use of HD Rumble when just fighting enemies or rolling through levels. It found a way to perfectly blend itself into the rest of the presentation. Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair is a step up from the first series entry, tackling a new genre of platformers and making a major impact. While it doesn't exceed in all aspects of the game, the effort and love put into this title is clearly shown here, going above and beyond in many aspects. There's an inspiration from recent Donkey Kong Country games, and while it doesn't always excel as far as they have, Impossible Lair innovates with some interesting ideas for an overworld that I honestly hope become the norm here. The first Yooka-Laylee may have been hit or miss for some, and even though Impossible Lair isn't the masterpiece that I think everyone expected the first game to be, it sticks the landing and continues to roll on further than I ever expected it to.